Intro. The unforgettable woman and the moral weight of boundaries. There are women who walk into your life and never truly leave. Not because they constantly call, not because they chase, not because they cling, but because something about them lingers in your memory. A presence, a silence, a principle. Michael Sandel once said that our worth is not measured by what we gain, but by what we refuse to compromise. And that's exactly why some women are never forgotten. They are unforgettable, not because they gave everything, but because they didn't. They carried themselves with the quiet strength of knowing what they will not accept. In a world that celebrates noise, they embody the rare power of boundaries. You see, beauty fades, passion cools, attention shifts. But respect, the kind born from boundaries, endures. And those who cross your path and feel that respect, never forget it. This is the secret that no one teaches. That boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are mirrors that reflect who you are. They tell the world, this is my value. This is what I stand for. Today we will explore what makes such women unforgettable through the lens of philosophy, morality, and the human soul. Because in a society that tells you to please everyone, the courage to say no becomes revolutionary. So sit back, breathe deeply, and listen carefully. This isn't just about attraction or memory. It's about the deeper moral rhythm that shapes human connection. This is why some women are never forgotten. The hidden power of boundaries. The silent strength of self-respect. Michael Sandel reminds us that every choice we make carries a moral meaning. Even the choice to walk away. To respect yourself is not arrogance. It is the foundation of your humanity. Some women are unforgettable because they mastered the art of self-respect without bitterness. They do not argue for their worth, they embody it. When others demand explanation, they simply smile and let silence speak for them. That silence unsettles the shallow, because it cannot be manipulated. It cannot be begged or bought. It is the silence of a woman who has nothing to prove, only something to protect. Boundaries are not drawn with anger. They are drawn with understanding, the understanding that not every person deserves access to your peace. A woman who understands this walks differently. She doesn't rush. She doesn't compete. Her presence feels sacred, like something rare in a world addicted to approval. The unforgettable woman does not make you feel owned. She makes you feel honored. And the reason you remember her is that around her you were forced to rise. You had to meet her standard or fall away. And deep down, even if you lost her, you respect her, because she never let you cross the line where dignity ends and desperation begins. Sandel speaks of justice, but he reminds us that justice begins not in the courtroom, but in the heart. A boundary is moral justice for the self. It says, I am not for everyone. My time, my energy, my love, they have meaning. That meaning is what lingers when she's gone. Her perfume fades, her voice disappears, but her principles remain. They echo in your conscience, reminding you what decency felt like. That's why she's unforgettable. Not because she gave more, but because she refused to give away her self-respect. The philosophy of distance. Every great love, every deep connection, depends on one paradox. Distance creates value. Michael Sandel often argues that what we pay for, what we sacrifice for, shapes what we truly honor, and the same applies to relationships. When something is too easily given, we take it for granted. When it demands awareness, effort, patience, or it transforms us. Some women, consciously or not, understand this. They do not flood your life, they balance it. They give you enough light to see what's possible, but never enough to blind you. And that distance and that sacred restraint is what gives them power. It's not manipulation. It's moral clarity. They understand that to be valued, you must not always be available. To be loved deeply, you must not be accessible cheaply. Their boundaries are not barriers of ego. They are expressions of self-trust. They trust that the right people will meet them halfway. They do not chase validation because they know. Validation earned through silence is stronger than attention begged through noise. A woman who carries this understanding changes every space she enters. She does not need to dominate. Her restraint commands more than any demand ever could. And that's where her mystery is born. You don't forget her because you never fully had her. Not emotionally, not spiritually. Because she always kept a part of herself sacred. Michael Sandel would call this the moral boundary between use and value. In modern life, we often treat people like means to an end, but the unforgettable woman reminds you that some souls are not to be used and only appreciated. She forces you to slow down, to reflect, to question your motives. And in doing so, she awakens something dormant inside you. The realization that love without respect is not love at all. That's why she lives rent-free in your memory. Not as a fantasy win, but as a moral teacher. Her distance became your mirror. Her boundaries became your lesson. Her silence became your reminder that real connection begins where ego ends. The moral beauty of boundaries. Michael Sandel teaches that morality is not abstract. It's revealed in the choices we make when no one is watching. And that's exactly where the unforgettable woman stands out. When the world pushes her to compromise, she pauses. When everyone else rushes to be chosen, she chooses herself. When people trade authenticity for attention, she quietly exits the transaction. Because she understands something most don't. Every yes that betrays your peace is a no to your dignity. And dignity once lost takes years to rebuild. Her boundaries are not there to reject love. They exist to protect the purity of love. She knows that not every connection is meant to stay, and not every emotion deserves a response. So she listens, and not just to words, but to patterns. Not just to promises, but to effort. She observes silently, and in that silence, truth reveals itself. It's in this restraint that her moral beauty blooms. Because restraint is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the maturity to say, I can feel deeply and still choose wisely. And that's the paradox. The unforgettable woman is not hard because she's cold. She's hard to forget because she's clear. Her clarity cuts through confusion like sunlight through mist. She doesn't play games. She simply refuses to lower her standards. Sandel might call this virtue ethics in motion, the discipline to align your choices with your principles. And in a time when many bend to fit into other people's desires, she stands straight, unbent, unbothered, unforgettable. You remember her not because she stayed, but because she showed you what staying true really looks like. When absence becomes a lesson, we often think memory clings to faces, to moments, to words. But in truth, memory clings to impact. And some women, through their absence, teach you more than others do through constant presence. Michael Sandel often speaks about moral remembrance, how certain experiences leave ethical imprints on our souls. And so it is with the unforgettable woman. When she leaves, she doesn't slam the door. She leaves with grace, and that grace becomes a mirror to your own behavior. You start asking questions you never did before. Why did she walk away? Why couldn't I keep her energy in my life? And slowly you realize she didn't leave to punish you. She left to protect herself. Her absence exposes your immaturity. It reveals your selfishness. It teaches you without a single lecture that love without respect is hollow, and that realization hurts, but it's sacred pain. It's the kind of pain that matures you. Because now, when you meet someone new, you remember her boundaries. You remember that calm firmness in her eyes. You remember how she never argued for her worth. She embodied it. And subconsciously you begin to honor others differently. You speak softer. You listen longer. You tread carefully with people who value peace. That's how her absence becomes a moral teacher. She's gone, yet she keeps shaping you. She becomes a quiet presence in your conscience, reminding you that peace is not something to demand. It's something to deserve. Sandel might say she became a part of your moral memory, not as a regret but as a revelation. You realize that love without discipline, without moral structure, cannot last. And that's why some women are never forgotten, because their absence awakens your ethics. The boundary between desire and meaning desire makes us chase. Meaning makes us pause. The unforgettable woman stands at the intersection of both, where passion meets purpose. Michael Sandel often explores how the pursuit of pleasure without moral direction leaves us empty. In the same way, connection without boundaries becomes chaos. Some women teach you this lesson not by preaching but by being. They don't chase affection, they attract respect. They don't demand loyalty, they inspire it. And when you lose them, you realize that what you desired was not just their presence, it was their peace. That's the difference between a fleeting attraction and a lasting impression. Attraction is about excitement. Impression is about transformation. The unforgettable woman transforms you. She forces you to redefine what love means, not as possession but as partnership between two self-respecting souls. She reminds you that genuine connection can only exist where both people honor each other's sacred boundaries. She's not unforgettable because she's perfect. She's unforgettable because she's principled. She loved with awareness, not attachment. She spoke with clarity, not control. And she walked away not in anger but in alignment. That alignment, between her feelings and her values, is what makes her presence magnetic. Because deep down every human being hungers for authenticity, and she embodied it without apology. Her boundaries weren't there to push you away. They were her way of saying, if you want access to my soul, meet me at my level. Sandel would call this the moral equilibrium between self and society, the ability to love without losing yourself. She knew that compassion without boundaries becomes chaos, and strength without softness becomes cruelty. So she balanced both, and that balance is why she's unforgettable. Because long after the emotions fade, the memory of balance remains. You remember how it felt to be in the presence of someone who knew herself completely, someone who didn't need to dominate or submit. She simply existed with integrity. And that is the hidden power of boundaries. They turn love from a fleeting emotion into a moral experience. They transform attraction into admiration, and admiration into legacy. The quiet majesty of integrity. There is a kind of strength that doesn't shout, doesn't demand, doesn't need recognition. It simply is. It's the strength that holds steady when everything around you pulls at your boundaries. Michael Sandel once said that true integrity is tested not when we're celebrated, but when we're tempted. And that's what makes certain women unforgettable. They were tempted to lower their standards, but they never did. In a world that constantly asks, what will you give up to belong? They answer, nothing that makes me who I am. This quiet defiance is the heartbeat of integrity. It's not dramatic. It's not loud. It's subtle, like a candle that refuses to go out even in the wind. People remember them because they couldn't be swayed by convenience. They didn't negotiate with their principles just to be liked. They understood something profound, that being respected by the right few is far greater than being approved by the many. When you meet a woman who walks in this kind of integrity, something inside you awakens. You feel compelled to straighten your own posture, to weigh your words more carefully, to re-examine your motives, because her very presence becomes a moral mirror. Sandel might describe this as the ethics of example, the way moral clarity can elevate those who witness it. The unforgettable woman doesn't preach. She embodies the sermon. Her choices become her philosophy. Her boundaries become her teachings. She reminds the world that real confidence isn't the loud declaration of "I don't care." Real confidence whispers, "I know who I am." And that whisper, that stillness, echoes longer than any speech ever could. Because true integrity is timeless. It survives trends, it transcends opinion, and it anchors the soul. That is why she can walk away without fear, love without losing herself, and forgive without forgetting the lesson. Because she's not living to impress the world, and she's living to honor her soul. The moral gravity of memory time passes. Faces fade, conversations blur, but character, that's what endures. Michael Sandel often speaks of the moral memory of humanity, the way our actions leave invisible fingerprints on the hearts of others. And some women, simply by being who they are, leave fingerprints that time cannot erase. You may move on. You may love again, but there will always be a part of you that remembers how it felt to be in the presence of truth. She wasn't unforgettable because she was perfect. She was unforgettable because she was real. Because in her eyes you saw the reflection of your own potential. The version of you that could have been more honorable, more intentional, more awake. And that realization becomes a weight, not a burden, but a moral gravity pulling you toward your better self. That's the secret no one tells you. The unforgettable woman doesn't haunt you, she humbles you. Her memory teaches you that attraction built on desire dies quickly, but attraction built on moral respect becomes immortal. She is gone, but her lessons remain. Her silence still teaches. Her boundaries still speak. And her example still challenges you to become the kind of person who could deserve her presence. That's the true mark of unforgettable people. They don't leave scars. They leave standards. The legacy of the unforgettable Michael Sandel once said, "A just life begins when we start seeing each other as more than instruments of desire, but as bearers of dignity." That is the essence of why some women are never forgotten. Because they refused to be treated as instruments, and demanded to be seen as individuals with depth, with limits, with light. They lived by a quiet moral code. Love deeply, but never blindly. Give generously, but never endlessly. Forgive freely, but never foolishly. And in doing so, they became rare. They became sacred. They became unforgettable. The world remembers noise for a moment, but it remembers integrity forever. Because integrity, like light, always finds its way through darkness. So if you've ever met such a woman, honor her memory. Not with longing, but with learning. Not by chasing her shadow, but by embodying her strength. And if you are such a woman, never doubt your impact. Even your silence is shaping someone's soul. Even your boundaries are teaching someone how to love right. In a time when people confuse attention with affection, your restraint will be misunderstood on whack, but never forgotten. Because the truth is simple. The world will forget faces, voices, and names, but it will never forget those who stood firm in their truth. So hold your boundaries with grace. Protect your peace with pride. And walk in the quiet confidence that what makes you different will one day make you legendary. This was Michael Sandel Motivation. Why some women are never forgotten. The hidden power of boundaries. May this not just be something you hear, but something you live.